with pictures of the Saddam's high command on the 52 cards?
No. I'd found some. There was some money on the floor over there, and the time Saddam had his all his pictures all over the money over there.
All right. So, how long were you in Iraq for, and how come you left?
Well, we left. We were relieved by other forces, and it was the initial invasion we went in on when they toppled Saddam. After that, I never went back. Because literally, as soon as I came back, my notice was in to leave, so I left, and I got out. What was it? That was all happening in around March, April, May time, and I was out by September. And,
what was your decision? What was your decision to leave?
I left. I left a couple of different reasons. I met a girl at the time, and I was literally away all the time, and that was part of the reason. Another reason was that I got put into a job that I didn't want to do in there, and I ventured into. Thing is, in the Marines, they're kind of self-sufficient, so they do all the jobs themselves, all the chefs, the clerks in the office, the drivers, everything else. And because I hadn't chose anything, I wanted to kind of just be a soldier. And I think the kind of the progression from that then would have been up to like SAS or SBS, and that's what I was looking into. But they said when we were in Northern Ireland that if we didn't choose, that they were going to choose for us, and then they chose a job for me that I didn't want to do, and I put my notice in to leave because I would have been stuck in that job for 2 years then. But luckily I actually got out of that job because someone swapped. They wanted to swap with me, so I went back as a soldier then. But my notice was in to leave at the time, and I think I was a little bit pissed off because of what had happened, and I just stuck with my decision then. And I left. I'd done a sports fitness diploma, so I got into doing one-to-one fitness sessions, and I was doing sports massage. So I worked in a sports center for a bit. When I worked in the gym, and I had my own clients. And then I think I was probably suffering a little bit of PTSD at the time, and a lot of things going through my head. So I decided to go backpacking. I went backpacking for a year. I went to Australia and Southeast Asia. When I come back from there, then I decided I want to go back doing private security, which is a kind of it's a good transition really coming out of the military, because I did miss it. I did miss the military life and all, being around the lads and the banter, and I did miss that kind of life. But I decided then to go and get my close protection license, and like a bodyguarding license, and I went back then to into that kind of line of work. And I my first job was up in London. Actually, I had a job up there, and then from there I went and got my job. Got a job in Afghanistan, working for the British Embassy in Kabul, taking the diplomats back and forth their work. And I done that for I'd say probably about 6 months, and then I went back to Iraq then. But I thought, I by that time as well, we kind of worked out that that war wasn't it wasn't what they said it was. We knew there was no weapons of mass destruction, and when we were going over there doing the close protection work, they were rebuilding Iraq. So I wanted to kind of do my bit in that way to try and help rebuild it. But then finding out afterwards more stuff again, and as I woke up more, I yeah, realised that that's not all that was about either.
Is there an element of when you came back to the UK, normal society was a bit of an anticlimax to
Yeah,
the excitement, the adrenaline, the risk, it's like you're facing death, and you went back to Iraq, perhaps, perhaps you had some kind of subconscious, you
yeah. I think
wanted that.
where your head gets messed up. You go from, like I said, it's like being in a film, and it's such your adrenaline's pumping all the time, and then you come back to being kind of flat, and it's weird. And there was no transition. I didn't really have much of a transition period. 1 minute I was there, and then the next minute I'm not. And I'm sat in the gym, and it's all kind of calm and quiet. And yeah, I've always been quite adventurous. I like traveling, and I love being in the outdoors. I like say I always like a challenge. But yeah, it was weird, and I ended up I was drinking a fair bit at the time, and I put it down to that. And I was yeah, it was a bit of a period of time where I felt a bit lost.
You getting asked if the government provided any help for your PTSD?
No, I remember having a letter um, because I had left, and I don't know if they had a ceremony when they come back to hand out the medals, but I was told if I didn't go and pick my medals up, they were going to be destroyed. That was the letter I had. So I had to drive up to the camp where I was before, literally go in a room, said I was there for my medals. They handed them to me, and then I drove back home. So it was a bit for that. That felt a bit crap. And when we went into Iraq as well, they talked us into having these anthrax jabs because they said there was an anthrax threat over there, which I think I think that was a load of rubbish as well. And I ended up having them because I wasn't really awake as I am right now. And even though some of the lads were warning us to say don't have them because they were messing the lads up in the first Gulf War, but I ended up having them. I was I was a little bit ill after having them as well, and I'm positive. I've got a blood cancer now, and I'm positive this came from them anthrax jabs. So,
Oh my God, man, that's
I
terrible.
feel let down in that way. And I know a lot of lads who have had cancers as well over my age, who've been in the Marines. And I think it's down to them because you can claim for that as well now. But you can only claim if you had them exact same jobs as I had, but you can only claim if you had them in the first Gulf War in 1991. You can't claim. And I've tried to claim for mine. They said, no, your claim's not out yet. But it took them 30 years before their claim came through.
That's disgusting. All right, so you've got out the military, you've done your massage course, training, you've become a bodyguard, close protection, you've gone back to Iraq. What happens next?
So I finished working away in Iraq, and I started doing a bit of anti-piracy work then. So there was a lot of work starting up on the ships with all the kind of piracy that was going on coming out of Somalia. So I done that for a couple of years. I was probably started doing that in 2010, maybe 2011. And yeah, I done that. I'd done about, I don't know, about 15 to 20 trips going on container ships, oil tankers, sometimes super yachts, and we were just basically sitting on the ship, making sure it got from A to B without being hijacked. And,
Any scary stories? Any scary stories of during that time?
Not really. My first one, really, my first ever trip. That was like I'd never done one of these jobs before, and the guy was with. There was only two of us on the ship, and he'd never done it before either. And we had what do you call it? Transit ship take is like a boat take us out to the ship to meet it because the ship wasn't docked. And when we got on there, we were told that we only had 150 rounds each, 150 bullets each. And I was thinking, wow, that's not much, because normally you should have had at least 1,000 each. So we was like, I was a little bit worried there. Then as we passed, we were sailing up the east coast of Africa, past Madagascar, and on the radar, you could see one of these kind of motherships had launched a couple of smaller ships, and they were heading towards us. And I was just thinking, wow, how long are these 150 rounds going to last? But luckily, our ship was just faster than them. But they were after us, and that was probably the most kind of unnerving part that I'd experienced during that. And the captain, he was a Ukrainian. It was a Ukrainian crew. And the captain had been hijacked before, and after that, he hit the bottle. Put it that way, he hit the bottle, and then the next thing, he's walking around in his pants around the ship, holding a bottle of whiskey, I think it was, and we had to drop him off at the next port because he's lost his marbles, because he thought we were getting hijacked again. But yeah, that was it wasn't funny, because he was supposed to be in charge of the ship, but it was now looking back, and it was kind of funny because he was he'd lost it because he thought he was getting hijacked again. But other than that, there's lots of ships out there that don't have security. So if the drill is, if they come near, you put your weapons in the air to show them you got weapons. And if they keep coming, you got to fire a couple of warning shots in front of the boat. And if they're coming up real close, then you got to take aim for them. Or you're trying to hit the engine block out first or whatever. But you harden the ship up as well. You kind of barbed wire all around the ship, and find out where the citadel is and harden that up as well. Lots of welding and stuff going on. And you get the hoses in place, anything you can do to try and stop them getting on. But that was the only real kind of and it was our very first time, and seeing that both of us hadn't done that job before, so that was a bit unnerving. But other than that, it was quite easy, really. It was a lot easier than working in Iraq or Afghan.
What was your next career after that?
So I had children then. I had children actually when I started on the boats, and that's why I realised I didn't want to be away all the time, because it could be away for anything up to a couple of months at a time. So I came back. I got into working in the gym again. I was doing a few personal fitness training clients. So I've always done a little bit of sports massage, and that's what I actually do now. I jumped into a few different jobs to try them. I was a financial advisor for a little bit. I worked with my old man on the roofs for a bit, because he's got his own roofing business, and I'd done that with him and one of my mates who I worked with on the roofs. But like I said, I damaged my hands, so I realised then when the winter came that my hands were no good in the winter. So I thought, I can't do that for another, say, 30 years. So I took over the youth club where I am now then, because I'm doing personal fitness training clients in this youth club. And then they had because the place didn't have many people come here anymore, and they said that the place was going to shut down because of funds. And I offered. Then I said, look, I'll have a go at keeping it going myself. So I ran the club for a couple of years, and I put on lots of different classes here, and I rented out the rooms, and just kept it alive for a 2-year period. Whilst in that time, then we formed a committee at the club, and I handed it over to them, really, and they've done a brilliant job now. It's one of the only surviving kind of boys and girls club in the valley up here, and it's thriving really now. But they've done a really good job. The guys they've fixed it up. They got good money coming in through rentals, and So I from there then, when I left here, I started my own massage shop up, and that's what I've been doing since. During COVID, I had a shop on the high street during COVID, but then when they started messing around with them lockdowns, I got out of there. I moved back to my parents' house for a bit because they had a place built down the garden for massage. But then they sold up and they went to Spain, so I came back to this club then where I am now, and I've been here since. And I do massage. I got an oxygen therapy business, and I sell natural supplements like CBD and all this medicinal mushroom stuff. That's quite popular at the moment.
And Jamie's Facebook link is in the description box, and I've also just put it in the live chat if anyone wants to contact him about any of that. And Jamie, you've done an excellent job setting the table for the story of the Facebook post. You've given a really good description of your life before it and how you put your life on the line for this country, and you weren't a criminal, and you've been a good, brave guy your entire life, helping the community, helping the kids. And we've got about 30 minutes left before the next guest comes in, so let's get to what the hell happened with this Facebook post situation, please.
So we all know what happened last summer with the Southport stabbings, and that really, I got 2 young children myself, and I'd only just come back from holidays, and I was taking the dog for a walk, and I just on a spur of the moment I'd done a video because I wanted to try and I just wanted to try and do something. I wanted to try and get some safety in place because I feared that things were escalating at the time. There was a lot of riots going on. Like there was riots going on before the Southport stabbing incident, and there was a few other things that were concerning me. So I called on the community to get a meeting together, and I actually called on the police, the councillors, the local councillors, and the MPs to get involved as well to implement some kind of safety at the schools and parks. And in there, I was talking about I was referring to illegal migrants coming into the country, and I said that I had my concerns with the unvetted people coming in here because obviously if they're unvetted, and you just don't know who you're getting into the country. It could be lunatics, it could be killers, it could be rapists, and we literally haven't got a clue. So that was my concern at the time, and I wanted to basically get something in place before things kind of got out of hand. And so I made that video. I think it was on the 31st of July, and on the 9th of August, I'd had a knock on my home address. I wasn't at home. My girlfriend answered up at the window, and there was 5 officers there. She said someone in plain clothes and someone in uniform, but I think she just seen 5 officers. There might be more in the vans, I don't know. But they asked if I was in, and she said I was at work, and they asked them where, and she told them I was where I am right now. And then they came here. She told me on the phone that the police were on their way. Asked her what for, and she said she didn't know. And she said there was a few of them there. So I thought, oh, it's must be something quite serious. I didn't really know I didn't have a clue what it was about. But I went out to because you can't get in this building, you can't just walk in here. So I went out to meet them. And I decided to put my camera on with my phone, and I was at the top of the steps and they were down the bottom as I came out. And I asked them, I said, is everything all right? And they said, oh, there's nothing to worry about. That's what they said first of all. So I walked down to meet them. I filmed their the numbers on their shirts. So I said, look, I'm filming you for my own evidence, guys, and for my own safety. And they said, yeah, that's fine. And they said, and they read me the charge, and that I was going to be arrested. And they said, you're getting arrested for indecent racial hatred, which wasn't the charge. It was in trying to incite racial hatred. And I asked them what for. And they said, oh, we'll tell you that when we take you into custody. And I said, take me into custody. I said, for how long? And they said, oh, you won't be long. That's what they said. So anyway, they said, do you mind if I have your camera? And I went, well, no, not really. And I stepped back and I could see he lunged at me. So I went and put my camera in my pocket, my phone, and then he grabbed my arm. And I said, look, calm down. I said, I'm coming with you. And then they proceeded to cuff me to the rear and took me in a van. And I was handcuffed to my rear for 45 minutes in the van, and another 45 minutes while I was at this police station waiting to go into the actual front desk. And I asked them repeatedly can I put my cuffs to the front because my shoulder was hurting at the time because I'd had a little bit of a shoulder injury. And they said, no, it was because of your reaction, we have to cuff you to the rear. And I was thinking I didn't have no reaction. They would have known if I'd had a reaction, but I didn't give any reaction. I literally put my phone in my pocket. Anyway, they said that the interview was ready for me to go straight into. And when I got to the front desk, they said they read me out my charge, Public Order Act, sections 19 and 21, I think it was anyway. And they said there was a maximum charge of 7 years, and I was just like, I said, for what? I said, for Facebook posts. And they said, yeah, there's a maximum charge of 7 years. And I was like, I said, that can't be serious. And then they put me into the cell, and I was expecting to go straight into the interview that day, but I didn't till the following afternoon. And in the meantime, they said, do I want a solicitor? I said, yes. And I couldn't, I didn't know any solicitors. I hadn't been in trouble before then. So I didn't know any solicitors to call. So I had to take the duty solicitor. And he explained to me that he couldn't actually see my video because the video that they'd uploaded to this portal was buffering. And to me, that seems a bit suspicious. So he was just going off the transcript. And the transcript, there'd been a few things altered in the transcript. My words, one of the words that was altered was just the word they to I. And then it read, I started a riot en masse instead of they started a riot en masse. And when the video doesn't work, and I was saying, well, he said, it doesn't work. And he said, they take him words out of your video and they've taken them out of context and they saying they're inflammatory and could be looked at as inciting racial hatred. And I said, well, which ones? What words? And he said, he didn't really know. And he said that, he told me that you're possibly looking at terrorism charges. And I was like, what? What do you mean terrorism charges? I said, for what? And he said, and that the bit that scared me, he said that they possibly looking at bringing your girlfriend in guilty by association because she lived with you. And I really couldn't believe it. And at that moment, I thought, right, I'm definitely being stitched up here. This is ridiculous. And I started getting a bit pissed off then. I said, well, I said, for this fucking video, I said, terrorism charges is absolutely ridiculous. I said, what have I said? And he just kept shrugging his shoulder. He actually said it. Look, he said, if you'd said this a couple of months ago, you would have been all right. And I said, well, what's the difference? I said, we've got a new prime minister. That's all, and then new government. I said, the laws haven't changed. And he just kind of went, and I was just shaking my head. So I went into the interview. And I told him the truth. I told him my concerns with illegal migration and unvetted men coming into the country, and that it's majority men as well. It's in a 75 to 80% men, and I had my concerns with that, and that and that I was and I actually in my meeting. So I had a meeting at that point before then. From that video, I'd had a meeting. And we agreed in that meeting that to the next meeting we were going to call a guy from Reform, the local Reform candidate, and that he actually agreed he was coming to the next meeting. So I told him that, and and to be fair, he was a witness. Well, he done a reference for me for my court case as well, saying that he was going to come to this meeting because we as a community had concerns at the time. And we wanted to get some safety in place for the children. And to be honest with you, he was great. He stuck to his word all the way through, and he was there for me. But we didn't actually need him in the end because after the I went to the magistrate's court on the Monday then, because they done the interview so late on the Saturday that I couldn't go to court that Saturday, and Sunday the courts are not open, so I did another day in the police station, so it was 3 days. And then I went to the magistrate's court, and he done me a very poor bail application. It didn't sound very good at all, and so they remanded me in custody then after that, and said that they feared that I was going to cause further offences, so I had to stay in jail till. And he convinced me that I should go on no plea, because he said, look, people with similar offences to you are getting 2 to 4 years at the moment. So he said, I think you really need to think about this, because if you get found guilty, you're gonna, it's quite a lot of time you're going to be doing extra. So he's trying to basically channel me into going guilty. But I said, look, I'm not going guilty. And he said, look, go no plea for now and have a think about it. So I went no plea, and even when I went to court, I tried to correct them a couple of times on the errors on the transcript, and not the transcript. They called my video something else as well. They said my video was called "This is what I think," and they said they named it "This is what I believe." So I don't know where they got that from. I tried to put my hand up and say that's not my video, and the judge shouted me down and said, "This isn't a place for you to talk." So I just sat there and just kind of shaking my head. And I was looking over to my girlfriend. She had all tears in her eyes, and I just felt helpless. I got taken down to the holding cell afterwards, and he never came to see me, the duty solicitor, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was in jail for another 10 days after that, and 10 to 12 days actually before I went to court again, where I needed to make my second plea then. And I went not guilty, and in the meantime, I'd sacked the duty solicitors because they tried to talk me into having a mental assessment, because I told them that I thought all the hate, because they were basically trying to say, it can be interpreted as racist, this can, and this can, and this can, and I was just shaking my head. I said, that's ridiculous. I was just disagreeing with them all. And I said, look, the hate's been created because our country have gone to war with these people over the last couple of decades. I said, they've killed loads of the women and children. And I said, now we are expecting these people who come here just to forget about that because we're giving them benefits. I said, that's where the hate is created. And I said, the moment we get concerned about it, then you're calling us Islamophobes and racists. I said, it's ridiculous. And that's what he said I needed a mental assessment for. He said, I think you're suffering post-traumatic stress. And anyway, so I took a new solicitors on. They'd done a very good bail application for me, but I made it clear to them the first day I met them, which was the day I was going to court, when I made my not guilty plea. And I said, look, I'm not. This no plea business is a load of rubbish. I said, no plea is guilty to me. I'm going not guilty. And I said, you need to get that through your heads right now. That's what I'm saying today is not guilty. And they went, okay. And I went in there, pled not guilty. I actually put my bail application in that day because that was the first day I met them, and I wanted them to get a good bail application in, so I wanted them to get a bit of background on me. And I think it was about a week later I went back to court. Well, I couldn't even go into the court, couldn't even go on video link, but they granted my bail application, and I was bailed on conditions of a curfew with a tag, so I'd be in 10 o'clock every night till 7 in the morning, and I wasn't allowed on social media, and if I'd had any kind of smart devices like a phone or a laptop, that they wanted to know about that, and if they felt so, they wanted to put some software on there to obviously track and listen into what I was doing. So and then in about September, October time, the Free Speech Union had contacted me because they'd seen that I pled not guilty in the news, and they felt like they said they wanted to try and help me. And I knew nothing about them at the time. I'd actually been recommended them by one of my mates, Marco, and my other mate Wesley, and they said, look, it's definitely worth a look at these guys. So when I spoke to them then, because at this point now, when I said that video was buffering, this is 2 months down the line, the video was still buffering and it still never worked. And when I spoke to my second solicitor, he said, what do you mean? It was the fifth paragraph down. He said, what do you mean by I started a riot en masse? I said, well, I didn't say that. And he said, "What do you mean you didn't say it?" I said, "Well, I didn't say it." He said, "Well, do you remember what he said?" I said, "Well, put the video on." He said, "Well, I'm not on Facebook." I said, "Well, my friend has sent you a link for the video." He said, "So we tried to put this link on, but it wasn't working properly." And I said, "Oh, look, we can't work like this." So anyway, I went then with the Free Speech Union. I decided to take them on because obviously they're free speech specialists. And when I first had my first Zoom call with them, I told them that I had a tag on, and they really couldn't believe it. They said, "You got a tag on?" They said, "For what? An online offence?" And I just shrugged my shoulders. I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'm just glad to get out of jail." And they said, "Do you want it off?" And I said, "Yeah." And they got that tag off within a week. So that was obviously, there was not a load of nonsense. If I had it off that same week as they kind of took over from me, it was a load of nonsense in the beginning. But yeah, from then on, then it was a totally new experience with the Free Speech Union. They'd gone down all my videos, not just the video I was being done for. They'd gone down a lot of my previous videos, and they said, "Look, we got a good background on you. You are quite careful with your words," and which I was relieved of, because that's what I wanted. I wanted someone to have a good look at me, myself, and see what I was about. And they just said, "Yeah, we think we got a very good case. We think we're going to win, and we're just sorry that you've gone through what you've gone through already, and that we're really looking forward to taking it on." And they were absolutely superb. So to all the listeners out there, I really recommend the Free Speech Union. This, especially now with all this attack on free speech, I think it's paramount. Really, you get something like that behind you, some insurance policy. So when you get to that police station, and you call on them straight away, because I think if I had had them at the police station, I don't think I would have gone to jail, because they could just see it was a load of nonsense that my human rights had been, impeached on, and that, my free speech. And these guys, these duty solicitors, unless they're just playing dumb, they just didn't know nothing about it. But in my opinion, they were, I think they were handpicked to be there.
So how does it play out? Do you have to go to court to have a trial or something?
Yeah. Well, they wanted to remand me in custody. My court case was 7 months later. But luckily, like I said, I had my second bail application. So my court case was on February the 3rd. Actually, it ended up being on February the 4th. And it was done for a 3-day trial. And it actually finished in 2 days. So you go to court, they play the video, they went through that, and these errors on the transcript still weren't corrected when we were in court. And even though my solicitor had told them about these errors, they still read it out in court, and we had to correct them then in court about these errors. So they went through the transcript, they went through the police interview. My barrister read out 2 or 3 of my references of people who I help and people at the Veterans Club I'm involved with. And yeah, I'm really thankful for them references as well. They were good, but I think the jury had made their minds up quite early, because they only took 17 minutes to decide when they actually, the court proceedings had finished, and they had to go out and decide whether I was guilty or not. They took 17 minutes, and in that time as well, they had to choose the chief juror, who's the guy that stands up and says guilty or not guilty. So by the time they walked down to the room and chose that guy and come back, I reckon they probably only took about 5 minutes to decide. And obviously, I got up there and I got questioned. I got cross-examined by my barrister, and then the prosecution, who was obviously there to try and trip you up and make you sound like as if you've done what you've done. But I think everyone in that courtroom knew that it was a load of rubbish, and it was a unanimous decision. So if it was a split decision, it would have kept on going on for a couple of days till they came to thing. But it was a unanimous decision, which meant all 12 jurors decided I was not guilty within that 17 minutes.
So by the time they played the video in court, had it stopped buffering?
Yeah. Funny enough, it wasn't buffering when it was in court, but all the time. Well, I think, I'm not sure the Free Speech Union, I don't even know if they'd looked at it, because they had looked at it, just gone on my Facebook, and but I'm not sure if it was working by the time the Free Speech Union, but it was 2 months later that it was still buffering with my second solicitor.
Where was your head at while you were going through the whole process before you went to court?
Well, when I was in jail, I remember just staring at the ceiling a lot, thinking, "What the hell am I doing here?" I was just thinking it's just going to be bad news, because I was just thinking they stitched me up, and I was thinking that video's not working as well. And by this time, I hadn't even seen the transcript. I know that they'd called my video something that it wasn't, and that they told me that they feared that I was going to cause further offences, even though I hadn't had any previous convictions. So I just thought it was a stitch up. And hearing all these other stories of people going to jail for nothing, like, I met a few other people in jail who were there for the same kind of thing. Yeah, it was